for Sudbury.
Mr. Speaker, last week's budget all but ignores Northern Ontario. The facts are in the Finance Department's own numbers. While the Southern Ontario Development Agency got some new funding, Northern Ontario once again got snubbed by these Conservatives. When will this government stop playing favourites, recognize the distinct economic challenges faced by our communities, and ensure equitable funding and fair treatment for Northern Ontario? Mr. Speaker, why are they abandoning our region?
The Honourable President of the Treasury Board.
Mr. Speaker, as the honourable member should know if he'd read the budget specifically announced $4.4 million to help capacity building in and around the Ring of Fire mining project that will help First Nations groups, that will help communities prepare for this bonanza of economic opportunity in Northern Ontario. What does his leader do? He goes to Washington and talks down the Canadian economy. Shame on all of them, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Algoma, Manitoulin, Caucus.
That's right, Mr. Speaker. No new money, 10% cut. Oui, la demande du NPD pour que FedNord devienne une entité indépendante a finalement été réalisée, sauf que l'argent n'est pas au rendez-vous. Monsieur le Président, il y a un important déficit d'infrastructures dans les communautés du Nord. Des inondations ont causé des dommages majeurs à Wawa, des routes et des conduites d'eau ont besoin de réparation dans plusieurs municipalités. Il manque d'antennes cellulaires et d'accès à l'Internet haute vitesse partout. Le budget n'offre aucune solution pour nos communautés rurales. Pourquoi les conservateurs ont encore ignoré les besoins des collectivités du nord de l'Ontario?
Honourable President du Conseil de Trésor.
Mr. Speaker, FedNor has a proven track record investing in Northern Ontario communities, whether it comes to internet broadband, whether it comes to new jobs, new opportunity for our young people, whether it comes to tourism, whether it comes to, of course, as I mentioned, resource development. That track record has been before this House. Every single time, Mr. Speaker, this party on the other side of the House has voted against that and voted against the interests of Northern Ontario.
The Honourable Member for Nickel
We'll always vote against Conservative budgets that don't get the job done for Northern Ontario. We have a shortage of workers in the mining sector to the tune of 100,000, yet they have no plan for reversing this trend. They're actually making it harder for mining sectors to survive by killing the accelerated capital cost allowance, despite extending this allowance to the manufacturing sector. Why are they excluding Northern Ontario from their economic recovery plan?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Well, Mr. Speaker, 20% of Canadians rely on natural resources from the economy. Hundreds of billions of dollars or investment are going to be committed to natural resources over the next 10 years. We hear about $650 billion. And unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, the NDP can see no good in any of this. They don't support resource workers. They don't support resource families. They don't support resource communities. What is it going to take for the NDP to get up and actually defend those communities instead of stand here in the House and pretend that they do when they're actually more interested in going to Washington and speaking against them?
The Honourable Member for Timmins, James Bay.
Well, Mr. Speaker, looks like in these austere times the New Democrats will have to pitch in and buy the Conservatives a map of Northern Ontario, because the only allusion to our region in the budget was in a section called Helping Southern Ontario Prosper. They closed the experimental lakes. They abandoned their promise.
Order. Order. The Honourable Member for Timmins, James Bay has the floor. Order. The Honourable Member for Timmins, James Bay.
I'll give them a map to show them where Northern Ontario is, because they obviously need some help. They abandoned the experimental lakes. They walked on the James Bay Port Authority. They've left a NAN police without the support they need. And, Mr. Speaker, what's with the Conservative backbenchers from Northern Ontario? Why have they been missing in action? Do they need a map as well?